like to get to that. How does the Christian point of view, the biblical point of view, deal with these issues of evil? I mean, we understand, of course, like through the story of Job, that there's God and the devil, and you know, in the struggle, and in the case of Job, you know, covering him with afflictions and testing his faith. Does this become a similar test of faith?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned the Job story. Think about one of the huge lessons of the Job story. Job's friends presume to know why God is inflicting or allowing this suffering on Job. They presume to know the reason. It's Job's sin. And by the end of the book of Job, what you're told is, don't presume. And God rebukes his friends. Don't presume to know what God is doing in evil. So again, the mystery. We've got to allow for an element of mystery. But the biblical story that strikes me powerfully is, again, in the Jewish scriptures, is Cain and Abel. And there's Cain, who is plotting to kill his brother. And we're told in the scripture, God knows what he intends and says to Cain, Cain, sin is crouching outside your door, but you must master it. You must master it. In other words, God understands what he intends to do, but he appeals to him to do the right thing, but he allows him to do the wrong thing. It's the mystery of human choice, freedom of choice. It has something to do with how God has structured this universe, that we are made in his image, and to be in a relationship with him means we have to have the capacity to reject him and to reject his moral law. That's the beginning of an answer. It's not the whole answer.
It seems like we're dancing around essentially the concept of free will, right? And it seems that's a core debate within Christianity. Are human beings endowed with the concept of free will? Do we choose our paths? Does God allow us to choose to be moral or evil?
Yes.
Or, as you said, the view that is somewhat being adopted and rejected, that everything is within God's plan. It's interesting. It's how do you deal with deviance, right? Because in the end, and I think in our last segment, even dealing with security measures, how much of a lesson can you take from a deviant?
Right.
I think this is a reminder. I mean, actually, you know, psychologists and psychiatrists in recent years have started to tend to use the word evil when analyzing individuals of a certain kind and nature. I mean, you've heard a lot already of pundits saying, what were the early signs? What was the early life trauma? That may be the case, but there are also instances where some people just choose to go bad. And if you believe in a loving and powerful God, you believe in the ability to choose, you also believe, I would think, in the existence of evil and the ability to choose evil. And I think that what you've seen today is that, somebody who has made that choice, and we, unfortunately, suffer the consequences of that, even if, you know, there's no way around it.
Yes, and historically, there's another part of the Christian answer. Again, it's a partial answer, it's not a full answer. The partial answer, again, is you want a God who intervenes to prevent evil. That's what kind of we all want. Why didn't God intervene? Why didn't he stop it? Why didn't he protect the innocent? That's what we want. And part of the Christian story, the narrative is, we have a God who intervenes. He's intervened in the flow of human history. He's intervened in the life and teachings and death and resurrection of Jesus, who takes on this guilt and suffering and evil into himself and then offers a new way. And so think about the Normandy invasion as an historical example for a minute. June 6, 1944, the Allies invade in northern France. It's enemy-occupied territory, right? But it really means the end of the war. It means the end of that fascist regime, but there's still going to be a lot of dying and fighting to do until the war is done. The Christian story is a little bit like that, in that the initial invasion has happened in the life and teachings of Jesus, and yet there's a lot of fighting and dying to do. So it's not yet. There's going to be a final reckoning, a final judgment, a final reconciliation, a final comfort, but not yet.